So in this video, we're going to show you how to change the bearings in our front gravel hub. So for this, you're going to need a bearing puller in a 6902 size, your bearing punch, hub support, trusty hammer, and bearing insertion tool or press, and your two replacement bearings are both 6902 size. So to begin with, you're going to remove the end caps, which are press fit, and set to one side. Then on the non-rotor side, we're going to insert our bearing puller. Tap it in gently and tighten. And using our hub support, we're just going to tap the bearing out. The internal spacer will also drop out, set that to one side, along with the bearing, and then tap out the bearing on the other side. So now we have the empty shell. So to reassemble, we're going to take our bearing insertion tool, one bearing, hub shell, then reinsert the internal spacer, second bearing, and the spacer, and tap gently into place. And now all we need to do is take our end caps, the longer one again on the rotor side, and the shorter one on the non-rotor side. So in this video, we're going to show you how to replace the bearings in our rear gravel hub. The tools that you're going to need are a bearing punch, bearing insertion kit or bearing press, your trusty hammer, hub support, and two 17mm cone spanners, and your replacement bearings, which for the hub shell are two 6902 size. So to begin with, you're going to need your cone spanners to loosen the end caps. Remove the non-drive side end cap. Set to one side, and remove the axle and Freehub. You can slide the axle out of the Freehub, set this all to one side. Then take your hub body and your hub support, and you're going to use your bearing punch to slide the inner spacer to one side and tap out one of the bearings. So you'll see that the bearing has come out, set to one side, and the spacer set to one side. Turn over and knock out the other bearing. Set that to one side. So now to replace the bearings, we're going to take our bearing insertion tool and the bearing for one side. Set the hub shell down, ensure the spacer goes back in, and the bearing on the other side. And tap the bearings into place. And the hub shell's done. So to replace the bearings in the Freehub, the tools that you're going to need are a flathead screwdriver, bearing punch, a Freehub bearing removal tool, or if you don't have one of these available, you can use your punch, just be sure to punch the bearing out straight, your trusty hammer, and the replacement bearing size is a 15267 for Freehubs with the anti-bite guard insert. Alternatively, if you have a hard anodized Freehub, With no insert, then you're going to need two 6902 bearings, but the process is exactly the same. First, we need to remove the outer dust cover. To do this, use your flathead screwdriver and just gently lever it out. Put that to one side. That'll expose the outboard bearing. Use your bearing punch to push the inner spacer to one side to give you purchase on the outboard bearing, and tap gently out. Remove the spacer, set to one side, and the bearing can be set to one side. Now take your Freehub bearing removal tool and tap out the inboard bearing. Again, if you don't have this available, you can set the bearing to one side. And we now have an empty Freehub body. To replace the bearings in the Freehub, we're going to need our bearing press. So take the inboard bearing, seated in place with the correct drift, outer drift, a couple of speed spacers, and press into place. Ensuring it seats all the way at the bottom of the Freehub. Remove the drift. Now add your spacer and the outboard bearing, and repeat. Then take your dust cap and just use your thumbs to press it back into place. So now we're going to replace the Freehub. Take the Freehub, reinsert the axle, ensuring the spacer is still in place. Slide the axle through the hub body. Replace the end cap. And use the cone spanners to tighten. Hand tight is plenty.